host of the King of Comics, Jack Kirby. When I'm not haunting Stan Lee, I'm listening to my favorite comic book podcast, Double Page Spread. Each week, Wendy Freeman talks to creators like Cullen Bunn, Mark Waid, Evan Dorkin, and more. She is one cool dame who knows a lot about comics. So when I'm at my drawing board in heaven cranking out Fourth World pages, I'm listening to Double Page Spread, available on iTunes, Libsyn, and the Stitcher Network.
1, 2, 3.
Somebody started saying something about Jerry, and it just kind of crescendo. And all of a sudden, Jerry's banging on the wall from the other room. Like,
I heard my name.
You weren't playing in your. So how does that work?
it's John's house. And
I hardly ever stay there because I'm staying at Steph's in West Little Rock.
Jerry's just kind of in flux.
Yeah, so I'm basically there to pack this weekend. But this game that they're playing, I'm not in. Someone else is DMing it, and they started it like way before I even joined. I'm in Craig's game, so the walls are like paper thin.
Just rolling them bones.
Got it.
Dice going everywhere.
Just wondering why it was there but not included.
because we don't like
Sounds
Jerry,
like
really.
a kind of a dick move.
You stay in your room.
it's one of those deals that some DMs can handle more players than others, than other DMs can.
And whenever he originally started this game, he already had like what 5
There's
people?
5 of us
Yeah,
in the group,
yeah.
so 6 is kind of hard, but I do it because I like.
I like a good hard 6.
Uh,
Anyway, hey, so RPGs.
I'd have to give it to you 3
But I was
times.
watching Dark Crystal, so it doesn't matter.
That's true.
I had more fun.
How are you liking that?
I finished it last night.
So fucking
it
pretty.
was
You just went through it.
amazing.
Raj started watching that this week, and I'm not. I mean, I appreciate it for what it is. I'm not like fawning over it, but
Yeah.
I walked to the room and those puppets look killer, dude.
Dude, and originally, because they have a documentary for it afterwards, they were going to use CG for the Gelflings, but they decided not to. They're
They
like,
made-
it didn't look right.
They
you
made
know?
the right choice.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
Well,
and the
speaking-
backgrounds look fucking amazing in that shit.
Yeah, they did. Like I said, I just kind of caught it in passing when I was walking through the living room on the way back to go bury myself in law books.
My wife decided she wanted to watch it with us. I know you were going to get started on the show, but
Oh, we're good. Keep going. No,
my wife decided she wanted to watch it with me, which means about 8 months from now, I'll finally get to watch it. I'm probably going to watch it like
Watch
on
it in
my own,
secret.
and then come back and watch it with her.
that's
yeah. The Hubs the other day was talking about wanting to watch something new. He's like, "Do I need to wait on you?" And I was like, "Not unless you want to wait 3 years and like binge watch the first 4 seasons."
It's an hour an episode, and there's 10 episodes.
Yeah,
So
like you just go right ahead, boo boo. So while we were talking about RPGs and tabletop gaming, I was going to say we're going to bury the lead. That's going to be a big part of the show here in just a little bit. But let's go ahead and let's do a podcast. Welcome to episode 88 of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. As usual, I am Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
Matt Trogdon.
Jerry Smith.
Craig Lance.
You threw in the Smith there, Jerry.
I did.
You did. We throw that last name in there.
I
you an artist?
I actually had somebody at work. Like I was, my big part of my job is talking to people on the phone.
Yes.
And whenever you're dealing with people's personal information,
It's
like
the
their
worst.
social and stuff like that, of course it's hard for people to trust you and stuff. So I was trying to get these people to send me information, and they're like, "Okay, what was your name again?" I said Jerry Smith, and they're like, "That sounds like an alias."
Absolutely.
Like,
It really does.
it's been the bane of my existence my entire life.
I mean,
is
but that's
having
got to
such
be a
common-
positive and a negative, right? Like,
Yeah.
like if somebody's asking for your, somebody that you don't want to have your digits and stuff, they're flirting with you, and you're just like, "My name is Jerry Smith, and here's a phone number." They're gonna look at them and be like, "Oh, I got shadied. I'm not calling this dude."
Right.
My
You
brothers.
got to make that work to your advantage.
Well, my brothers have the last name Smith as well, and they're Mike and John.
Oh, they're criminals. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, my mom was so original. I mean, my brother's name is literally the sample on everything.
Yeah, I was about to say John Smith is like on every like sample credit card and everything.
Yeah.
I wonder what Juan Doe thinks about his name. Famous comic book artist from South America whose name is Juan. Is that an alias or
imagine
was
it's
somebody
a
just
pin name.
awesome? Like I kind of want it to be real.
I think it's a
I
thing.
kind of want his mom to be like, "No, you're incognito as fuck, dude."
I went to pick up some copies. I've ordered some copies at Staples this week. The guy walks up and is like, "What's the name?" I go, "Trogdon." He goes, first name?"
Yes.
I go,
my first name.
got a bunch of Trogdons back there, do you? Get the fuck out of here.
Well, you'll notice that there is one voice who is not on the show. Our buddy Sean, work schedule got switched up, flipped up, turned upside down, so he is going to be absent from the show. So work things. But that's, that
Real life happens.
Such is life. So if you don't know what the show is, if this is your first time tuning in, we're a couple of group of friends, some folks who like each other, and we meet up around a table. Yeah, most of the time. Jerry just doesn't like any of us. He's just like, my real name is not actually Jerry Smith. I've lied to you all for years. But no, we get together, we have a little brunch on Sunday mornings, and we talk about geek culture, comics, things that we love. We have an awesome Facebook group that is just cool as shit, and you should go join it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If this is brunch, who the fuck's bringing the mimosas, and where are they?
Yeah.
Gross.
Gross.
Mimosas.
I really want a Bloody Mary now.
Yeah.
We should work on that. Is there a bar that will let us set up and record?
From
I was
now
just
on-
more concerned about brunch at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
It's like breakfast time.
That's breakfast. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Caleb's gay. If he says it's brunch, it's brunch.
This is
That's
facts.
true.
This is facts.
They do make the rules on brunch.
Grilling hot dogs in the backyard.
But if you want to talk about brunch and comics, you should definitely hang out with our Facebook group. Come join us there. It's fun times. We're posting stuff. We're talking about things all the time. If you want to see what we're reading, pictures of panels we find funny, things that we just think are humorous as they go throughout the week, we are on Instagram and Twitter, and you can follow us on both of those at SFG Podcast. And we have an email that you can send all of your questions, comments, and concerns to, southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. We want to hear from you, man. We want you to interact with us. We want you to join up with us. Let us know what you're into. Let us know what you find fun out in geek culture. Spur on the conversation. Be friendly. Make some friends. Just be part of a broader community, and that's good times. Normally, what we do to start off a show is because it's Southern Fried Geekery, so we try to keep things roughly food related. All of us are big fans of mastication and chewing, so that's why. So
I don't know what those words mean, or what at least mastication means. I mean, masturbation. Yeah, I'm down.
Mastication is like masturbation, but it's just not as consonant. I said that live on air. No. So normally what we do is we start things off with what we call a short stack, which is we cover at least 3 books that we have read this week. Just kind of like get the motor running, like get the wheels spinning a little bit, talking about comics. This week, we opted not to do that because of the book that we are making our family meal. The book we're going to roundtable it's an anthology of sorts. It's a massive tome, if you will, of single-page stories that are all filed into one little bit of a timeline. And so instead of doing a roundtable, we thought we would talk about our book of the week, and then we would each pick 5 of the stories that we really liked, and we'd mix that with our roundtable and our short stack, because there's just a shit ton to cover in this book. Well, what is this book? What could we be talking about? You might be sitting at home wondering. I would be. The book that we're talking about is Marvel Comics 1000. That came out this past week. It's written by everybody, just everyone who can write is in this book.
If you are a writer at Marvel, you are in this book. Yep. Or if you've written for Marvel.
But mainly,
or if you're Al Ewing.
I was going to say mainly Al Ewing. It's Al Ewing and everybody else. With art by everybody else who does art. But really letters and only by Clayton Cowles.
I was going to say VC's Clayton Cowles and Pettit.
Yeah.
Those are the only 2.
We keep making the show. Those are the only people who do letters in comics. That's it. There is no one else.
If you want to do lettering, go to work for VC.
Yeah, pretty much. They've got a lock on it. Which, I mean, that's got to be like how Clayton Cowles hasn't won. Maybe he has. How he hasn't won Eisners for lettering. Surely the game of numbers has got to play in his favor on that one. Like, he's got to win at some point.
I mean, he's doing like 80% of the books out there.
Yeah,
so.
Just every time we open a book, there he is, just smiling at us with his letters. So how do we want to do this? We really didn't talk about this. Do we want to serpentine it? Do we want to...
I would say let's just go around the table and each one of us talk about a story.
Okay.
And there's going to be some overlap. What we did for the listeners is somebody wanted to pick 10, but fuck 10. We picked 5 of our favorite stories out of this book. And we're all going to talk about it. I assume there's going to be some overlap.
Yeah.
And they're only one-page stories, so it's going to be very much like the short stack. Just kind of this is what happened. The only thing that I would suggest we talk about is Al Ewing kind of has a central story going through the whole thing. No one else does. But
they all tie in a little bit.
Yeah.
It's so the cool thing about this is it is an anthology, but it does have this continuous thread, and the thread is all based around this mask. Right. This kind of What is it? Where is this? No one really knows. All we know about this mask is it's been around since the inception of the Marvel Universe. It's magic. There are these kind of spies called the 3X's who they're interested in it, but they create this order of like League of Evil Scientists or whatever that are trying to figure out how to adapt and make this mask work for them. And in this book, what he does is he makes this mask continuity throughout the entirety of Marvel history. That's awesome, right? Like that's just really cool. And I've seen something like this done before, where somebody goes back and they tell a story. I mean,
DC did it with New 52, where they
Yeah.
had Pandora kind of showing up and all the different things, and then they just kind of left that thread out there.
Well, and I was
they never followed through with it.
I
Weird.
was thinking about Jason Aaron, what he's doing with the Avengers right now, to where he's going back and making the Avengers these like legacy type characters. And then I was thinking about the Immortal Iron Fist from a few years ago, where they turn Iron Fist's dad was actually an Iron Fist, and they go put these little drops, these little Easter eggs, if you will, throughout Marvel history, and it's cool stuff.
Yeah.
And so you get this story about how this mask has affected the mainstream Marvel universe in really subtle ways. And by the end of the book, again, I guess we should say spoiler warnings for all of this, for everything we talk on the show, especially for this book. By the end of the book, it opens up to a broader story that's going to be told with this mask that ties in some really, really cool characters from the 50s and 40s.
Yeah.
And we're going to get a reintroduction, in a sense, to those
Yeah,
characters.
I think we're going to get Dark Avenger in the Marvel Universe
Yeah.
now and some things like that.
Like the Masked
and
Rider.
Al Ewing writing Dark Avenger.
Yeah.
Fucking sign me up
Yeah,
right
sounds
now.
dope.
Yeah. So,
Well, and there used to be a time when superheroes weren't the driving force behind the comics industry.
Right.
There used to be a time when, even for Marvel, like they had love stories, and they
well,
had,
which is what
Westerns.
this book does, is it
Yeah.
starts in, what year, 1939 or something?
I believe you are. Yep, correct.
So it goes
1939.
from 1939 to 2019, and actually 2020. It goes 1 year beyond because it's previewing the new book that Al Ewing's going to be on in 2020.
Yeah.
But each page is a story from a year, and it tells you not necessarily the main event of that year, but a main event that happened in that year.
a true fact.
Yes, a true in 1939, such and such happened, and this is a story that ties into that kind of.
Yeah. Well, I'm very interested to hear you all's top 5 and see what crosses over and see what doesn't. I mean, like to me, that's more interesting as far as like a personal study for my friends is seeing what you guys really like. So I'm gonna go first.
Okay.
You guys are cool with that.
Yes,
Mainly because I know you're going to steal the one I really want to talk about.
Okay.
So,
mine are
all right.
in chronological order. So if you want to steal mine, start at the beginning.
So I'm going to bounce around a little bit. So do we want to go the one we like the most to the one we like the best?
I don't think
or-
it matters.
I didn't put mine in that order.
I didn't
So-
really. So just in no particular order, one of my favorite stories in this book, my favorite pages, which by the way, these are all single page things.
Right.
They're like, doesn't take 2 pages to tell stories, single page stories. The date is 1959. And in 1959, in Marvel, the Hulk's longtime home, where he was published at, Tales to Astonish, was introduced. This page is written and drawn by Alex Ross, and I would pick the page that doesn't have Clayton Cowles doing the letters. The letters are by Josh Johnson on this one. And it's got the Hulk, and the Hulk is being interviewed by somebody who's you're just asking these really kind of asinine questions that don't make a difference. And you can tell he's getting frustrated. He's not wanting to talk to him. And she's got the microphone just held up in his face, like a very just intrusive reporter, you know. Why do you do what you do? What's your worst experience? What do you wish people knew about you? You're so misunderstood. And the Hulk just kind of looks at her and grimaces and then eats the microphone.
Yeah, it was great. It was one of the better
Yeah,
stories.
I like the looks on his, the expressions. It's like when you're having a conversation with your dog.
Yeah.
Is what
Yeah,
that looks
very
like to
much,
me.
yeah.
You know,
And if you don't know Alex Ross's art, I don't know what you're doing listening to the show, but you should acquaint yourself with Alex Ross's
You
art
should. Well,
because
we're
it is some of the
teachers, Craig.
it is some of the most realistic. I was kind of being funny.
I know
but
you
yeah,
were, Brent.
it's some of the most realistic painting style comic art you'll ever find. So that one was on mine, but I was smart and I actually put a sixth one just in case.
Nice.
I did a whole 13 just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
fuck that is the word, Jerry. You, you should know that. Fuck 6.
All right, Craig, you go next, buddy.
My first one is 1943. Miss America debuts in Marvel Comics.
That was a good one, man.
Jeremy Whitley, Arinako, Felipe Sobrero, whatever, and of course VC's Clayton Cowles. American Chavez, which I spelt wrong because I am a white boy, discusses her origin. She talks about how it's no mistake that she ended up where she did when the world needs to be shown that love is more important than hate. Mm-hmm. And she talks about being raised in a Hispanic neighborhood by Hispanic people and how she could return there right now and walk down the street and be offered food and that sort of thing. But you go out into the rest of the world and it's just hate.
Yeah.
Especially, bigotry everywhere.
Yeah.
It's very poignant and very timely.
Also, on a point for this story, I thought it was really cool, and this actually popped up a few times in this book. They tied in the recent West Coast Avengers run. Like she's dating this girl from San Francisco or wherever they're at, who's I don't know if they're a mutant or if they're an inhuman. I forget which point, but like half of her body is metal, and I think that's dopeness.
Yeah, it's it's a very good story that deals with bigotry and her having to deal with bigotry, even though she's a hero and out there saving people's asses, but because she's Latinx,
Latinx,
or part of the LGBTQ community, she's getting a double whammy, but she's out there saving your ass.
Yep.
So but we can't have things.
And just
like
props to Marvel editorial for keeping things tight. Like that's cool. Like I like that. That makes me happy
for sure.
Jerry.
Okay, so the first one that I had on the list and the first one that made me really chuckle was the 1986 Howard the Duck. And the tender flaky taste of Welt's merch. It's the 1986 was the Howard the Duck movie release. Everybody remembers
such a thing.
How amazing that movie was. So Howard the Duck is basically just kind of going on this rant about life and the meaning of life, and how movies are kind of just this commodity to show people's tragedies for something for us to enjoy and stuff. And he's just walking around, he's trying to figure out, and he's like yelling up to the sky, like, whoever's up there, just give me some kind of sign. And something lands and hits him in the head, and it ends up being a fruit pie. And I don't know if you remember the ads and stuff in comics from the 80s and 90s, and they had the little apple pies. So it's just kind of like
those were in every issue.
Yeah, the Hostess apple pie.
Those were in every
pies.
Yeah, and they always kind of functioned it into a little comic book story or whatever. Someone's stealing them and Spider-Man's going to stop them.
Non-listener question: what's everybody's favorite Hostess pie?
Oh God,
the only answer is apple.
I disagree. Caleb?
Next.
I'm trying to...
You know apples aren't done by Hostess, right? Like the fruit.
They don't do apples?
I'm trying to think. I'm not brand specific on my treats, so I don't know.
So they did the apple, the cherry, the chocolate pudding, lemon pudding, or lemon custard.
Were Snowballs Hostess?
Yeah, but we're talking about the pies.
Oh,
no, I went that direction too.
Yeah,
I was going to say ding dongs.
What's your favorite pie? Snowballs.
I like
it. Quit. Let's just go on. Matt, what's your favorite first book?
Sorry, when I don't think of pie when I think of Hostess treats. I mean, I know they made them, but I was with the little paper package.
Ribs.
The cherries ones were good.
I like ribs too.
Yeah, the cherry was.
The cherry was one of my favorites.
The little paper packages. I remember those. Yeah. What you got,
in
Matt?
high school, and this might explain why I look the way I do now, I would drink 2 Cokes and have 2 cherry pies. That was my lunch every day in high school.
I mean, but in high school, I saw that picture you put on Facebook the other day. You were svelte in high school.
Oh, yeah, you could burn that shit up.
Yeah.
I used to eat an apple pie and a honey bun every day for lunch.
Yeah, I mean, back in high school, you could eat whatever the fuck you wanted.
Yeah, dude.
Back in high school, I lived off a diet of cocaine and sex. And that's why I'm a virile motherfucker I am today.
All right.
Follow that up.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt. Follow that up.
So my first story is actually the first story in the book, 8 Bells by Al Ewing, art by Steve Epstein, and then color by Frank D'Armata, and of course VC's Clayton Cowles doing the letters. I loved this as an opening story. Yeah. I thought it was a very compelling opening.
It was a great way to kick off the entirety of the book. Yeah.
Right. And it set the tone for the continuing thread.
For the theme going through the book. I loved this opening story. I opened this up not expecting to really, anything to really grab me to get going because I knew they were basically 1 page, one shots.
Right.
I was like, man, that's dope. I want to know more about this story. I want to, if this turns in, if this turns into a series, I'd love to read this. So, of course, this kicks off in 1939, the Human Torch debuts in Marvel Comics #1. Yeah, so I did. I love this one.
Yeah, it was really good. And the way they kind of gave a origin for Human Torch.
Yeah.
Was really, it was intriguing.
If you're gonna do a study in Marvel history, I mean, you got to start off with the first hero from Marvel, and I thought that was really neat. Let's see. I guess it's my turn, so I will say that my next favorite one. It was hard to choose. I don't know about you guys. I had a really
it was ridiculous.
Really tough time choosing. I really dug the White Tiger story that was in this.
Yeah.
And the fun fact about the White Tiger story is in 1976, the White Tiger gets his own series in The Deadly Hands of Kung Fu #20. Yeah. But now the White Tiger is no longer a man. The White Tiger, because the White Tiger is based off of this like mantle. So to be the White Tiger, you get this necklace, you get this totem.
Yeah, it's very similar to the Black Panther.
Yeah, very, very much so. And inherent in, like you said, Latinx countries. And right now in current continuity, you have 2 White Tigers. There are 2 people who take this mantle. And so you have both of the White Tigers who are fighting the Hand. You have Ava Ayala, who's the White Tiger, and you have Angela Del Toro, who's the White Tiger. And they just kind of talk about the history of it, and you get a little bit of a meta commentary about how the original White Tiger kind of fell from grace.
Right.
And if you have to read between the lines, but there's a little bit of a meta commentary about how these white people were writing this Latinx character and had him turned into a criminal when he wasn't necessarily doing that, and there's a little bit of a tone there, and I thought that was a really poignant to do that in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 panels, 9 panels, and this was written by Al Ewing. And the main reason, other than the fact that I thought the story was very poignant, but the big reason I love this story is the person who did the pencils. When I saw this, it just made I knew it as immediately when I turned and saw it. It's George Perez.
Oh, yeah.
And when I see Georgie Boy on a book, instant just smiles.
Yeah, for sure.
It's happy making, if you will.
My second story was from 1944, and what happened that year was Captain America's cereal movie. Not like cereal like bowl of cereal, but cereal like
that's going to be topical later.
Serialized movie hit the movie theaters. This was Mark Waid, John Cassidy, Laura Martin, and Chris Eliopoulos. Cap discusses what he stands for in a poem, basically. And just a little spoiler alert, it is not a flag. That, believe it or not, is not what Cap stands for. He stands for all the ideals that America should be. So, to me, it was kind of cool. And
yeah.
It's Mark Waid, so,
He writes a good Cap.
Yeah.
My second one is actually The Last Stand of the Dark Avenger. 1950, Marvel Boy is introduced in Marvel Boy #1. This is part of the ongoing story that's going in the series with Al Ewing writing about the Black Mask. It's essentially Marvel Boy stumbling upon this hooded figure that's the Dark Avenger, and he's essentially, it looks like he's talking to him like in his mind with telepathy, and he's just pretty much, kind of telling him like that you need to go find this mask and stop the science, look for the Scientist Guild and everything. But it's Al Ewing, Gabriel Hardman, and Matthew Wilson with VC's Clayton Cowles. The art in this one is fantastic. Like I would take an entire mini series just on based on the art for this one alone.
Oh yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely. My second one.
Yeah, it was a good one.
So my second one was The Last Word, the Alex Ross Hulk story that Caleb mentioned first, so because he knew everybody else would too. So in place of that one, I'm going to talk about One Heart, the Black Panther page written by Christopher Priest, art by Brian Stelfreeze, and VC's Travis Lanham on letters. I'm not necessarily a huge follower of Black Panther. I do like the character. What I really liked about this is the militant tone that he has in this page, and basically lets this, reporter or interviewer know, you dressing up like this and getting drunk as a celebration does not honor me.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate these characters that, are all about their mission, and they're all about business. And Black Panther is not let's get the job and go home and have some martinis type of guy.
Right.
He's basically always on point. He's always on business. And I really appreciated that being illustrated on this page.
Yeah.
Where has this Christopher Priest been in the last few years?
He's been missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this Christopher Priest did not show up when he did, was it Justice League that he did?
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Yeah, he did not show up in the Detective 1000 book. This is the Christopher Priest from
Black Panther.
Yeah, this is that guy. And so I mean, I when I read this particular story, and I agree, I thought it was very, very well done. Christopher Priest is kind of famous for being able to send those subversive messages from a black guy to white people about how to write comics. On some level, this was a little bit of a different tone to Christopher Priest was sending to a different audience about heritage.
Yeah.
And I don't know that, I mean, I could be stepping on ground that I don't have the right to step on here, but I really did feel like he was talking about people who, you go out and you talk about our community, and I'm using quotes because I'm not a member of that community, and you're taking the wrong message with you. Mm-hmm. So, wearing dashikis and acting a fool at frat parties, have some pride in who you are.
Right.
And I don't have the ground to stand on as a person who is not an African American or a person of African descent, but I thought that message was, I can observe that message from the messenger to the messagee, and I can have respect for the fact that he's sending it. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for sure.
I need that Christopher Priest in more comics. So, good times.
Awesome. Yeah, it was good.
Let's see. Next on my list, let's see. I'll go with one that was fun for me, and it comes out of 1982, and that is when Hercules headlines his own series.
I knew you were going to pick that one.
That was great.
This one, I grinned from ear to ear the entire time I read it. It's called The Prince of Power Returns. It's written by David Mandel, art by Butch Guice, who he did a great job with it. Shout out to Alex Guillermoz, who is continually one of my favorite colorists of the year.
Yeah.
When I see that guy, I just know the colors. He doesn't have one single palette he pulls from, but he really is able to match the colors of the palette that he's using at that particular time to the story as a whole. And I think he did excellent with it. This book kind of has a retro feel, or this story does, because of the time. And it's Hercules being a little bit reintroduced through the universe as kind of like a night talk show, very much a Letterman style introduction. And he's getting his intro and he won't come out, and he won't come out because they're not through with the intro yet. So he gets the intro. He's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and tentacles. Hashtag tentacle gang. For the Lion of Olympus, the scion of Zeus, and the one Prince of Power, Hercules." And he doesn't come out. And then he's like, "What's going on?" And the announcer he's like, "Interrogative, what's happening?" And he's like, "Thou must tell of the Hydra." He's like, "You serious right now?"
The introduction wasn't grand enough.
Right.
It was not grand enough for him to come out.
And so he's like, "Well, I mean, dude, look, we know you're a little bit jealous of Thor and you're ashamed of that." He's like, "No, fuck that. I'm better than Thor. I've bedded more women than
More fair
Yes.
maidens. Oh, please, God, don't talk about the fair maidens.
Oh my gosh.
And so eventually he is satiated, and he comes out. He's like, "Yeah, it's hi Marvel 1000," and the only reason he's able to come out is because he's convinced that Marvel 1000, the book that we're reading, is all about him, and that he's the star of the book. So he comes out, and it's that OG look where it's kind of more of a Sinbad look, to be honest. But he comes out, and he's just like, "Hey, Marvel 1000, 'tis I, the star of the show. The book may commence." And this book is deep in the book. This story is in the heart of the book. And he's like, "You can get started with the story now." I thought it was just a really fun story. I thought they did a great job with the history. Nailed that character. Nailed it. Good times. Good job, guys.
Yeah, so my number 3 and 4 have already been spoken about. So I'm going to go on to my number 5.
Okay.
And that way no one steals it before it happens. Mine was 1962 Amazing Fantasy number 15 appeared that year. And this is Phil Lord, Christopher Miller, and Javier Lopez. Spider-Man is on the phone explaining to a scientist that he was bitten by a radioactive spider and now has spider powers. And the scientist is like, well, can you shoot webs out of your abdomen? Well, no, I created web spinners, though, and I've got hair on my palms and feet, and I stick to walls. And the scientist looks at him or responds to him and says, maybe you're just on LSD. No, I don't do drugs. Maybe you should be on LSD. It is the 60s after all. And yeah, it turns out the scientist is actually Doc Ock and thinks that he's lost his freaking mind and needs to get mental health help. So it was pretty great.
He was like, I'll transfer you over to the psychology department.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I laughed through the whole thing. Well, because it's one of those things we always talk about, that Spider-Man's powers really aren't spider powers. Because he talks about the, well, I got the spider sense, which is like a tingle when something's going to happen. And he's like, yeah, what spider has that power?
He goes, ESP, like spiders.
Yeah.
There was a missed opportunity there for a really good Harry Palms joke.
Yeah,
some
for
level.
sure.
I think it was I just
for sure.
Just make it.
Well, Caleb, I gave you 3 chances.
You did. Go do it. Rip the Band-Aid off.
2002, Elsa Bloodstone takes over monster hunting from her dead father.
Yeah.
This one's called Monsters. It's by Kelly Thompson, Pepe Larraz, David Curiel, and VC's Joe Sabino. And essentially it's just Elsa talking by a campfire about, how she got started out and what she does to hunt monsters and send things back to hell. And then you see that she's talking to Jeff, the land shark. Yeah. And it's funny because she's making all of these like things about evil monsters, and then she says, and you may well be one of those dodgy things, Jeff, so you need to behave, okay? And then there's just a moment of silence, and then it kind of does this like cute head tilt, and then the last panel is her saying, I will kill anything that tries to hurt you. and it really gives off that, like, I don't know if you guys watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine or have tried, but there's a character in it named Rosa, and she's like this really like hard Hispanic cop that doesn't take shit from anyone and doesn't joke around and stuff, and everyone's afraid of her. And there's an episode where like they have a puppy in the office and she like goes to hold it, and she is basically like, if anything were to ever happen to you, I would kill everyone here and then myself.
I've not watched. I hear that's a show people like.
Yeah.
It's pretty. I hear good things.
Yeah.
Hey, look what page I was on.
Yeah, I know. I saw it and I was like, oh, is he going to pick this for his 4th? But
yeah, it was a really good one. It was on my short list.
It was super cute.
So my next one is, to no surprise, sorry, Caleb.
Nope, go.
Of Kings and Sinners, 1970, Conan joins the Marvel line in Conan the Barbarian #1.
I specifically didn't pick this one because I knew both of you were
This was easy. By Ralph Macchio, Marco Cicchetto.
Ralph Macchio.
Yeah. And Travis Lanham. Yeah.
Is it that Ralph Macchio?
Yeah, he's deep in Ralph Macchio, Karate Kid is big wig at Marvel.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
How did I not?
Just crane kicked Craig right here on the show.
He's been he's administration at Marvel and has been since the
Sweep
80s.
the leg.
Oh, fuck, I did not know that.
Yeah, he's written several Marvel stories and
none that I've read.
Is a very much a
I've read several of them.
I think you've read them. You just didn't know it was him.
Huh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a big wig in the Marvel.
Well, good for him.
Yeah. Sweep the leg.
See, I learned something new on the show too.
Yeah. I always wondered if it was the same person, and then
hey Matt, what's this story about?
Yeah, I think it's about Craig figuring out who wrote the story.
Hey, round tabling here. That's what we're doing. We're having some conversation here.
That's right. So, I liked this one.
Because it's Conan?
Because it's specifically Conan as king running into, he's getting ready to pass judgment on a criminal. The criminal is presented to him, and it's one of his running buddies that he used to steal with. But now Conan is king, and this guy's has been caught stealing from him. And of course, Conan lets him go. But it, the thing I really liked about it is it points out that Conan does not really like being a king. He likes being what got him there. And I really appreciate that because I don't really like reading Conan the King stories. Mm-hmm. That's not.
It's one of those things that's what he always wished for, but sometimes when you get what you want, it's not really what you wanted. It's the journey getting
there, and that's not an uncommon theme in sword and sorcery books.
Right.
I mean, that was real big in Game of Thrones. When Robert Baratheon finally got the throne, there was a lot of that in there. So I really appreciated this little one pager showing a glimpse into that.
Yeah, it was good. Like I said, I didn't put it on mine specifically because I knew one of you did.
Well, and better, all of you would have thought that you were going to put it on your list, and none of you put it on your list.
That would have been funny.
Yeah. But, I was putting it on there regardless. I was going to bulldoze the fuck out of this. So, but also
take over one of the other person's talking.
Yeah, it's gonna push your notes off the table and start in.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's important to note that if Conan had not been introduced in the Marvel Universe, we would not have the Conan Barbarian movies,
right.
or so many other things that are present in pop culture with Conan the Barbarian.
Pretty much, and if we didn't have the Conan the Barbarian, the original one, we wouldn't have had that giant run of 80s fantasy movies that we did have in all likelihood. They all kind of spawned from the success of Conan the Barbarian.
Well, in Conan the Barbarian itself, going back to the original publication, people forget, predates Lord of the Rings. He birthed this genre. So
if it hadn't been for this story, Red Sonja would have never banged out Flavor Flav.
Yes.
You're welcome. You're welcome for that.
For that mental picture.
Yeah, it happened in real life. So I have bad news. Brothers. Tragedy has struck. It's befallen me. All of my bookmarks fell out. Of my book. That I
you want me to go on to my next one?
No, because I have one. I have one saved. So the next one for me, the problem is now I'm looking for one that I was going to finish up with, and I can't find it that hasn't been mentioned yet. But the next one for me it's the Patsy Walker story. So in 1945, Patsy Walker gets her own self-titled debut book. So if you watch the Netflix series Jessica Jones before it got taken off because of reasons, they play off this
because Netflix canceled it.
Yeah, I don't remember. Anyway, they mention.
It sounded like Apollo.
You think they're gonna at least bring Daredevil back?
I'm gonna throw my phone. I'm gonna commit a thing. The It's Patsy story was very much real life. That's how she came about being. There was this comic that was very much about the life of a little girl, and that little girl grew up to be Patsy Walker, aka Hellcat. And in this story called 6 Tips for Selfie Success, Patsy is fighting this. I don't know about you guys, but when I saw this, it took me a minute to realize it wasn't like the OG Groot. It wasn't the Groot from way back in the day that was just like a wood monster, and not what Groot has turned into today. But she's fighting this very tree-like thing, and as it's going, she's giving you tips about how to take a selfie. Like, look up at the camera as she's falling off of a building. And don't put your whole self in the shot when all you see is her feet as she's drop-kicking a monster. Avoid heavy shadows as the shadow creeping over her is about to pluck her out. Try to elongate your neck as she's getting choked from behind by, I think, a scroll that's not blue. It's a weird monster. Number 5, relax. Slightly part your lips and exhale as she's beating a dinosaur with a baseball bat. And then laugh. Always smile like you mean it as she's grimacing into the camera, because she's fucking Patsy Walker, aka Hellcat. And I just really dug this, and it's done by Catherine and Stuart Eminem. Of course, Clayton Cowles is on the lettering, but I just really I dug this. I like the feel of it. I haven't read anything by Stuart Eminem in a long time, and it was cool getting that moment.
Well, I love how they kept Patsy Walker in the Marvel universe and turned her into Hellcat.
Yes.
Because, it started off that I believe her mother was a model.
Yes, and
then she was in that book with her, and then they're like, let's just keep this character. The model books are going away, but we can keep these characters in the book by making her a hero. So. Yep. My next book is from 1972. It's The Tomb of Dracula.
Oh, nice.
With Jim Zub, Nick Bradshaw, John Rauch, and VC's Corey Pettit, one of the other VC's letterers. This story is a week in the life of Blade. And each panel is like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's just him fighting vampires. Then we get to Sunday, and because it's Sunday, the vampires aren't out, so he can sit at home and read and pet his cat.
Yeah.
And it was just a fun little cool story that I enjoyed.
It tickled me.
Yeah.
Reading a book titled Vampires.
Yeah. And the great thing was is it actually had sun, like bold, on the panel.
My fourth is 2012. Amazing Spider-Man number 700 is published. And it's Spider-Man in He Arrives Just in Time by Dan Slott, Marcos Martin, Munsta Vincenti, and Joe Caramonga. And this one, I don't know, it's pretty neat. I really liked it. It's so you get the super villain that always has like the master plan, and they need time for the master plan, and you're always like, oh, why didn't the hero just show up? They always show up at the nick of time. Well, not today. Spider-Man found out about Doc Ock and his Hurricanen needing 10 hours to charge, and Doc Ock's like monologuing like, you fool, you knew all this stuff, you had the drop on me, you could have come in at a better time, like, why did you decide to take me out now? And Spider-Man just jokes like, oh, do you have somewhere to be? And then the next three panels is actually Peter all beaten up and seeing Aunt May, and you find out that it was Peter that actually had somewhere to be.
Yeah.
And they're at Uncle Ben's grave.
Yeah, that one was pretty
That
cool.
hit me in the chest.
And it was really neat because you kind of get this contrast of the whole fight. It's three panels at the top, and they're all red. And then whenever you get the ones with Peter and Aunt May at the bottom, it's three panels and they're all blue. So it's kind of like the, different moods that we have there.
Excellent. It's when a colorist does their job well, the tone of the book changes depending on what's happening. And that was a good example of that.
Yeah.
So my next one is the 1987 Spider-Man vs. Wolverine. Number 1 is published, titled Jet Lag by Christopher Priest. Mark, was that Bright? I can't tell if I guess that's a B. Bright. These letters are really strange.
Yeah,
so
the lettering on that one was not.
Yeah, Scott Hanna, Laura Martin, and Joe Sabino. This one, I bought this book when it came out back in 1987. And it was interesting for me, so there's probably some nostalgia effect in here as far as this story goes. But I remember this vividly because this woman commits suicide by Spider-Man, kind of like suicide by cop. And reading that as a kid, I was like, what? I remember reading the page over and over like, what?
I actually didn't know anything about that story, so that one kind of fell flat for me. So, I mean, what happened in it, basically?
So Spider-Man goes to Germany. Coincidentally, so was Wolverine is also in Germany, and he's meeting up with an old secret operative running buddy of his. It's a woman named Charlemagne, going by Charlie, and she's ill, and she's terminally ill. Well, Wolverine and Spider-Man get into it. She is there, and it's called it's called jet lag because Spider-Man is literally jet lagged. He's not operating at his full capacity. And she ambushes him. He thinks it's once again Wolverine not letting up, so he just turns around and full on decks her and kills her. And she dies in Wolverine's arms, and obviously that impacts Spider-Man pretty dramatically, as well as a young boy reading the story. Yes. I was dumbfounded by the story as a kid. I was like, oh, what? Just, but Wolverine at the time is like, this is the way she wanted to go out.
Yeah.
And,
Damn.
Yeah.
I've never read that story.
Yeah. I bought it back, and I've referenced it before, the first comic book store in the state, that looked more like a illegal pornography store at the time.
And may have been.
Yeah, who knows what could have been in there. It was awful dark. But yeah, I bought this thinking, oh man, right on, Wolverine versus Spider-Man, my two favorites. And then I read it and I was like, what?
What are these emotions.
Yeah.
87 was a good year for comics.
Yeah.
It really was. I mean, that was the same year.
87 was like the worst year ever. 88's where it's at.
Well, I was going to
see.
say because of things like Dark Knight Returns, the fact that I was born and you were made. I mean, so, you know, the reasons.
I was born in August. I was not made in 87.
You were born?
Yeah,
yeah,
you're
no,
right.
9
No, I was a
months.
preemie. So,
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Bought this.
How preemie were you?
honestly, don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I know I came early. I think it was a month
Less-
That
early.
explains a lot while you're
Yeah.
still developing.
I'm just thinking I bought this book while y'all. Just thinking I bought this book when y'all were still a twinkle in the old man's eye. That's all I can think right now.
I'm just saying that I graduated 2 years after that book came out.
All right, my last but not least, certainly not least, this book, it's funny, Jerry just spoke about a Spidey book that kind of hit him in the chest. Matt just spoke about a Spidey story that kind of hit him in the chest.
Because Spidey's amazing.
Man, they're pulling throwing webs on these emotions, man, trying to hold it together. My last one comes from the year 1984. Spider-Man gets his new black costume, an Amazing Spider-Man number 252, which I found interesting that was the factoid because it had nothing to do with the story. But you know, that's kind of as an aside. That was one of them that even though I liked this one, I think that should have done maybe a better job of attaching the facts to some of these stories to the content of the story. But you know, it is what it is. So in this story, Pete's doing Pete stuff, man. Spidey's going through Manhattan. There's slinging some webs, saving lives, just doing the thing. And he's just, you know, he's helping folks, man. And people love Spider-Man for that because they see him. He's a street level hero that they actually see doing good work in the community. And all of these people are like, oh my God, I'm going to name my child after you. You saved me. You're the best person ever. I'm going to name my firstborn boy, girl. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm going to name it after you. What's your first name? Like Spider-Man? Like what is your, and of course, Pete's not going to tell him his real name. Like he's got to keep it incognito. There's a reason he wears a mask. But what he tells him, and he tells everybody this, that his name is Ben after his uncle. And all of these people just everywhere, everybody, like they're naming their child Ben. And you just get this montage after montage. Like we're calling him Ben, we're calling him Ben, we're calling him Ben. And that like, and the writer, when he wrote this, he leaves a little note at the end. And by the way, the writer's Brad Meltzer. The art is like I need art by Julian Totino Tedesco because son like just hits you. Chris Eliopoulos on the letters, but Brad Meltzer leaves this little note that says, "For my grandfather Ben, for Stanley, and for Theo and Jonas." Like this was a very personal story for him, and like even beside that, like the story in itself like got me all up in my feels. Like you know, might have had to like wiped something out of my eye, dust and allergies and whatnot. But after I saw that note, like it was just like, oh, like I gotta take a moment, and I did. I took a moment, and I'm glad I did. It was good stuff, man.
Yeah, it was absolutely one of my favorite stories. My last one is one that I'm picking on the fly because you guys used up my spare and one of my extras. But
Should have picked 10.
Fuck 10. So my last one is End of the Day. 1981 Iron Man battles Doctor Doom in Invincible Iron Man number 150, which is kind of weird that that's the factoid, the main event they picked for that year. But anyways, written by Donald Mustard, Rochelle Rosenberg did the art, and VC's Corey Pettit did the lettering. There's only 2 word balloons on this whole page, and it's got Iron Man basically getting beat by Doctor Doom, and he said, "Ouch, that hurt a lot." And Iron Man says, "Too bad, Stark, the Matrix is mine." And then it shows them both going about their day after Doom beats Iron Man. Iron Man comes stumbling back into Avengers Tower, and all of his friends are there to greet him.
Hey, we heard you got your ass kicked by Dr. Doom.
Yeah, everybody wants Tony to get
The Hulk and Cap and Black Widow are there waiting for him, and then it has Doctor Doom returning to his throne and sitting down with his newly won Matrix in his hand, but he's there all alone, just kind of sad. And the final panel has Tony Stark betting Black Widow.
Yeah, because Tony fucking Stark.
The last one I've got is the Celebration Dinner. 2005, the Young Avengers make their first appearance. And you essentially have all the Young Avengers, and there's a celebration going on. And I'm not necessarily, I don't know what it's for necessarily. I'm assuming it's for Eli, aka Patriot. And they're all kind of like, they give him a gift, and it's his Patriot costume. I guess he's been, out of it for a little while, out of the game, and they're trying to talk him into like, come on, let's bring the Patriot back. And he's just like, I don't know about this. Do the Young Avengers even exist anymore? And
They fucking should.
yeah, what is it? It's Cassie, right?
Yeah.
Scott Lang's
Mhm.
daughter.
Stature.
Stature. She pretty much says they do when we're all together. And everybody kind of gives a reason for him to come back. I really like, what is it? The Quicksilver of the group.
Mm-hmm.
He says, besides, it's no fun being the team sexy rebel when there's no one to rebel against. So they essentially talk him back into it. And the very last panel is them like, going off on a mission. And he says, would you believe me if I said, this is just a one-time thing? And, Hawkeye says, you mean until the next time? And he's like, absolutely, until the next time. One of the really good dialogues that we have here with Hawkeye, because Eli's talking about, changing the world and going to law school and everything like that. And she puts out there like, the world changes every time a black superhero puts on his tights.
Yeah.
And that was just really, really great stuff. Yeah, I mean, he follows it up with saying they're not tights, but it was,
What a
need
dumb idea, going to law school because you want to change the world.
we need
Who the fuck does that?
I can't believe Caleb didn't take this one. We need a new Young Avengers.
We really do, man. We've got I thought we had that with West Coast Avengers.
yeah.
Champions has been similar to that, but
Yeah.
it's not the same.
It doesn't have the same feel.
No, we got to have that Young Avengers back, dude.
So mine is Doom Alone by Jason Latour and Joe Caramagna. This is
Kind of follows mine.
Yeah, it's very similar, but 2015, Dr. Doom takes over Battleworld Secret Wars #2. I like this story because it illustrates Doom's how his megalomania isolates him.
Right.
His extreme narcissism and megalomania totally isolates him. Because I really like the character of Dr. Doom, and I really wish somebody would write him that way. I've been wanting that for a long time.
You know who needs to write him? And Caleb probably won't agree, but that's Charles Soule.
That's true. I want to.
If he would approach him as like he does Darth Vader,
Yeah.
absolutely.
He
Not
would
writing
write-
the same way. I mean, basically honor the character in the same way.
What he does, in my opinion, really well is when he takes bad guys and writes stories about that Magneto series he did was wonderful. The Sinestro series he did was wonderful.
Yeah.
He does those kinds of books very well. Better than he does hero books, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh man. I 100% agree with you. I'd be all aboard for his Dr. Doom.
Speaking of Jason Latour, while we're on that topic, have you guys? He's got like a YouTube channel now where he interviews other writers, and for the life of me, I can't think of the name, but I've been listening to it and watching it just because he gets. I mean, he's Jason fucking Latour, right? So I mean, while he's not doing.
While they're
Southern
leaving
Bastards.
us hanging on Southern Bastards.
while he's not drawing Southern Bastards, he does have the opportunity and the connections to get these really great people to talk about their art on it. So check it out, man. Like I said, I'm sorry for not knowing the name of it.
Can I just say I'm really sad that Matt didn't talk about Bloodbath?
I thought it was going to happen.
It had both Wolverine and the Punisher.
Yeah. Would you like me to explain why?
Yes,
I was prepared for this question because it was stupid. Because I'm pissed off that Jason Aaron's like, hey, I got a cute idea. Isn't this cute? Look how cute this is. Baths. I'm clever and cute.
I thought it was amazing.
See?
That kind of undermines the comment that I was about to make, which was the cool thing, at least for me, that I thought about the Marvel 1000 book. And I'm going to interject my interjection with normally whenever we have anthology books, I typically judge them by the 50% rule because normally it's throwing darts at a wall. And as long as 50% of the stories are good stories, because usually you have some misses in there. As long as 50% of them are good, I'm generally happy with my anthology. I didn't have to apply the rule to this book. There were no bad stories in this book, if you're not mad, which is fine.
The majority of it was good stories.
There were stories that I didn't particularly care about. I mean, like the Deadpool story, the Rob Liefeld copy and paste Cable thing that he did. Even that was good. There were no swings and misses.
I'll be honest, I did not read the Deadpool or the Cable
I
story.
skimmed it.
I skipped both of those.
I will say the Deadpool 9-page 9-panel page was pretty funny.
It was pretty funny.
The Hulk wants to be alone was really good. I like that one too.
And shout out to the story was good, but the Red Wolf story that just the graphic design on that page was really striking. I thought that was good. All in all, man, I love this book. If you haven't picked up Marvel 1000, get yourself to a comic shop, get yourself to the internet where you can order it offline.
You may have to, because I was just looking for one on the wall here and I didn't see one on the wall.
It's a lot of fun. And again, there are things that are going to come out of this book. Like, it's not just a one and done and you never have to worry about it again. They're like, Al Ewing is going to be writing a very pulp-like story.
And I can't wait until we find out that Bloodbath was in continuity and Frank receives like a case of bath bombs from Wolverine in the new Max series.
I think they should bathe together. You should always look. Bathing with friends is better. They can reach the places that you can't. It's great. You should
that would be one stinky bath.
That would be. That would. But yeah, no, it would be. Yeah, there's nothing I can say to that. So you guys want to answer some listener questions?
Sure.
We've got listener questions this week. It was fun times. And I kind of grouped these listener questions as they came in together based on subject matter. Because we had a few that kind of just fit. You know what I mean? Like sometimes that happens. And it gave me the idea that going forward, I think what we're going to do for our listener questions is we're going to come up with a topic, or maybe we are going to get a topic from one of our listeners, probably off of our Facebook group page. So you should go there if you want to like recommend a topic. But we're going to take that topic, use it as a theme, and ask you to give us questions based on that theme. So just off the top of my head, like I'm looking at a Mountain Dew bottle. So if I come out and say the topic is Mountain Dew, then ask us questions.
Thanks for calling me out on the air, Caleb.
I didn't say I was.
Speaking of Mountain Dew,
Mountain Dew shaming him?
Yeah.
I'm not. It's right there.
On the subject of Mountain Dew, how many cousins have you kissed?
I'm going to take that to my grave.
Wow. Okay. Getting us back on track. So if the topic is Mountain Dew, you ask us, you out there who are listening to this podcast, you ask us questions based on Mountain Dew. So like, have you ever seen Mountain Dew in a comic book? Or like, what is your favorite Mountain Dew commercial that starred a person? You can come up with something. There are questions. It's a really good exercise.
Please don't ask us about Mountain Dew.
No, I'm just literally just off the top. Okay, so there's a board game over here at Kapow Comics on the shelf called Shogun. So if the topic is Shogun, that's the topic. So what movies with Shoguns have you liked? What comics with Shoguns have you liked? Are there like story, like, right now I'm reading Lone Wolf and Cub. Like, you could ask me a question about that. You can take this topic and you can pull out of the ether that is your beautiful minds questions and deliver them unto us, and we'll answer them on the show because it's fun. But like I said, I got that idea from the listener questions that we already have, so let's answer some of them. The first one comes to us from our brother Zach Davis, who, by the way, is a pretty damn good comics writer in his own right. We reviewed one of his a really good Western comic on the show not too long ago.
Yeah, we did.
Excellent book. And he wants to know if any of us are tabletop gamers like D&D, Pathfinder, etc. He asks if we have ever played the role of Dungeon Master and do we find it enjoyable, and also what is your favorite character type to play and why is it the Barbarian? I'll kick us off on this one. I think all of us are, except for maybe Matt, are game players. I play in a regular bi-weekly game. I know Craig plays in a couple, Jerry plays in a couple, and we're eventually going to break Matt because he doesn't realize he loves it yet, but he does. We'll rope him in. I've never been a DM. I have been a storyteller for a Vampire the Masquerade game. I don't particularly care for it. I don't like wrangling cats, which is what being a DM is. It's not me. I just enjoy playing. And my favorite character type, using D&D tropes, which is kind of the road he led us down, I really like druids. I think druids are fun. I like the idea of being able to use nature. I think there's something inherently cool about being both a magical person and a fighter. Druids are my favorite.
Awesome. I have been a DM. Mm-hmm. I play Pathfinder currently, but I've played Dungeons and Dragons, first edition, second edition, 3.5. I haven't played any of the later editions, but and Pathfinder. Throughout my entire life, I've played those. I do DM. It's not necessarily, if I have a choice, I'd rather be a player, but I do like DMing as well. I disagree a little that it's herding cats. It's giving people the illusion.
Right.
Herding, not hurting.
No kitties were harmed in the playing of this game.
Yeah. I probably had south mouth when I said that. Herding cats is it's a good analogy, but on the other hand, most of DMing is giving people the illusion that they have a choice.
If you have good players, it's not hurting cats.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, sometimes you do get stuck with players that are like, oh, we're all going this way. I'm going to go open every door along the way and let everything out. And, things like that.
You're going to die, boy.
Yeah. So, you discourage things
Jerry
like that.
just went Squidbillies on us.
So, yeah, I enjoy playing. I love playing DPS characters. I really love two-weapon fighting. And probably my favorite character I played was a 4-handed Kasatha War Priest that I guarantee you would out DPS any barbarian you ever came up with.
I'm going to need you to extrapolate on what you mean by DPS, because DPS means something way different in my world than it does in your world.
DPS is damage per second or damage per round. If you're playing online, like in a live action role playing game, it's DPS is just the amount of damage you can do.
Gotcha.
And so I use that same term when I go backwards into actual tabletop gaming, but it's really, I want to do the most amount of damage every round I can. And I had a 4-handed War Priest that I guarantee you would.
You were a blender.
That depends. Is John playing the barbarian?
Yeah. So yeah, we have a friend, Jonathan Cook, that is. He will break any fucking role playing game.
The
you put
dude
in
is
front of him.
He's a catalog of D&D rules.
Yeah, he is a savant when it comes to role playing games. That dude can break anything, and I honestly feel bad for David DMing with John and I both in a game.
Yeah,
because
Because with him, it's not hurting cats; it's hurting a hyper intelligent velociraptor.
Well, I'll just tell you. Last time, in my game that I DM, there were level 5s. I put him up against a CR12, and John one-hit it.
Jesus.
Kinda.
Well,
he did the math
well,
wrong, and we had to redo it. But he pretty much killed the thing with one attack.
I mean, technically, I killed it with one attack after he did all that damage.
Yeah, after he did all the damage, Jerry came behind and was like, boom, with his little arrow, and he's dead. So yeah,
I'll just sit back and let John do 90% of the damage, and then I'll get that last.
Yeah.
Have you ever DM'd?
I have. My favorite part of DMing a game is whenever you draw the pentagram in the floor with blood and you summon Satan.
Right.
Like it's the
that's
best.
pretty awesome. That's what the world thinks RPGers do.
At one point, Sean was doing a game, and every now and then we'd get to like kind of off weeks, where he'd let someone else run like a little one-off game with all of our characters. That was my first attempt at it, and it went meh. I did like a Jurassic Park world, which was really fun. Ended up killing one of the players, so we had to rewind time.
Still has PTSD about dinosaurs.
But the more fun one that I got at least 4 games out of was a Star Wars Edge of the Empire.
Yeah, I was in that one.
And it was really fun. It was just one of those things where, which, happens to a lot of D&D games, role-playing games, is scheduling. Yeah. Just killed it. Favorite class to play? My favorite character that I've played has got to be my half-orc paladin, honestly. And that was in a D&D 5e game. It was just so much fun. I gave him a really great character and a really great voice. And I haven't played it with any of you. I know for sure. Yeah. Because Stephanie did a 5e game before she left. And then whenever I went up to Seattle, I put him in their game.
As an aside note, you have a really good mind for visualizing your characters. Because I played with you before, and you had Jeremy Hahn actually draw up your character in a commission with that. And it looks excellent.
Yeah. Ichabod Lovecraft. Yeah. What are they called?
Goblins.
No, it wasn't a goblin.
Oh, yeah. He was.
That was the one in your
game.
Was it a
tiefling?
Tiefling. Yeah. It was a tiefling alchemist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Matt. Have you ever played D&D? Have you ever role played?
Never.
Never done it. Never dipped your toe in the water.
Have you ever been a dungeon master? 2 separate things.
Nah.
Would you?
We're asking the hard questions, like how many cousins have you kissed?
Have you ever considered yourself RPG curious?
Yes.
Yes. Would you ever consider experimenting with RPGs?
Yes.
If you were going to experiment with RPGs, what type of person would you experiment with? Like, do you have a type?
What
that you
type of
think
character?
Like, you want something big and like a big and
fantasies.
burly man, like a just a barbarian.
Conan, Red Sonja.
Are you more you like more artsy guys? Like,
I think it'd be perfect if he just went like the exact opposite and did like an elf like wizard or something.
I would. I mean, it'd obviously have to be some kind of warrior, but yeah, I'd have to give that some real study. But I've never had the opportunity to play any of the. Growing up, I was never exposed to anything like this, so it was never in my wheelhouse. Kind of like playing cards. I don't know dick about playing cards either. It's not because I hate cards. Just
All
never
right,
played
we got
cards.
a poker game coming up after the show.
Yeah,
That's happening. Speaking of opportunities, the next question that follows up in this line of questions comes from our brother Frank Lanza, and he wants to know if we'll be giving the Die RPG beta a shot. Now, Die is a comic book written by Kieran Gillen, art by I went blank.
I can't think of his name right now.
Yeah, a gorgeous painter. I deeply apologize if you listen to the show, but.
Jerry's looking at it.
Well, I'll put it in the show notes, and Jerry can find it. So they have orchestrated an actual RPG to go along with this fantasy comic, and it looks cool. I probably won't be playing it because unless one of my professors puts it on the syllabus right now, I have barely had time to read like 4 comics this week.
Stephanie Hans.
And so like I doubt I will get a chance to. I'm hoping somebody else does, and I would love to know how the mechanics work, how cool it is.
Yeah, I might play it, but I'm stretched pretty thin right now in my role playing game times because I've got 2 games going on. I'm DMing one and playing in one. But I would love to play this game, so maybe we can get a once a month Sunday or something where we come up and play up here at the store or something, and invite Matt and get him involved in some role playing games and get a couple of people to play.
I would absolutely be down to run this game.
Yeah, Jerry's about it.
110%.
You want to run it?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe if we can get it before you,
I'll look up stuff for it and everything because I think they have the free PDF online.
I think it's really cool that comic creators are doing this now, as long as it's not selling a card game that I'm not interested in and a Conan comic. Yeah. But I mean, you have books now that right. You have books now that like they're coming up with like soundtracks and stuff. Like one of the Jeremy Hahn books has a band called I Hate Bees that writes a song about every comic. I think this type of ephemera.
Me like bees.
Me like bees. Yeah.
We don't hate bees.
Well, I don't know
we
what
all
they
love
like,
bees.
what they like. But the ephemera of it is really cool. And so, speaking of not Stephanie Hahn, but Stephanie Straw, she asks, our beloved Stephanie Straw, what comic book characters would you want to play a board game with? And this is particularly cool for Stephanie because Stephanie's career is creating board games. If I'm not I think that's fair to say, right? Like, and so this is a
developer,
really cool,
producer.
Yeah, and well, by the way, what a badass career to have! Like, and she's worked so hard to get where she is. I have
and she still works so hard.
Nothing but respect for her and how she's honestly like just taken the industry like by a strangle and said, "No, I'm going to make you what I want it to be."
She's my hero.
Yeah, she's pretty badass. So, what comic book characters would I want to play a board game with? Man, this was hard. I'm going to say Steve Rogers because at least at the end of the day, I know he won't cheat. I'd play Candyland with Steve. That's where I'd go with
Candyland with Steve. This wasn't hard for me. I picked Spider-Man, Wolverine, Taskmaster, and Batman.
Okay.
Explain.
The dialogue would be fascinating between Wolverine and Spider-Man playing a board game. And then you got Taskmaster like studying everybody's move. Could you imagine playing chess with Taskmaster?
Oh, you'd lose. Like,
yeah.
You don't win.
And Batman sitting there pouting the whole time because he's losing to Taskmaster. It would be amazing.
Dude, like Taskmaster would be Batman's ultimate villain. Like that crossover has to happen. Where's Amalgam Comics when you need them?
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised in you, Caleb, because we had an entire story arc for something like this.
We did. Yeah.
The Champions.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
Specifically, Nova and Miles would be great. But I think all the champions would be great, like in an RPG setting or any kind of game. It just seems like it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I wonder about this, like who would be fun to play a board game with. I did not choose, one of my favorite characters being Wolverine for that reason, because
hilarious.
he would not be fun to play a board game with.
Drinking beer and playing board games with Wolverine, it would be fucking amazing.
You landed on my hotel as Wolverine.
Yeah.
His response is not, So, mine were She-Hulk, Wonder Woman, and Dick Grayson.
Okay.
Just because I think sitting across the table from She-Hulk, I was going to pick a third female, but it's like, okay, that's going to get weird and creepy. So I'm like, I'll throw another guy in there, make sure it's not weird. And Dick Grayson's, sense of humor would keep the game fun. So.
You know who I wouldn't play a board game with? Chewbacca. Not playing a board. He will rip your arms.
Yeah, you
out.
have to lose.
Yep, you have to. All right, so diving
That's
into
canon.
It is. I'm really surprised you didn't pick the Star Wars story out of Marvel.
I thought about it,
Yeah.
and
It was really off brand.
it was on my list.
Do better.
Yeah,
Do better next time.
I love that one, though.
it was really
I
good.
love
Yeah.
that one.
Stooping into comics for a little bit. So we had a couple of really good questions about comics. Our friend Frankie De Jesus from the Snarky Geeks podcast, he wants to know, what are our kind of top 3 favorite newspaper comic strips? I love this question, because we don't talk about, we talk about things like manga is comics. We talk about comics, this, that, and the other. Comics are comics, man. And newspaper strips are where comics were born, so to speak. And so I really liked thinking about this. So why don't we roundtable this the way we did the other ones? I'll start us off. My first one was Gary Larson's Far Side, which ran from 1980 to 1995. It really is the perfect mix of sarcasm and situational humor. It plays with irony really well. And also the thing I like about Far Side comics is because for somebody like me who's interested in the question, what is a comic, a la Scott McCloud, all of the Far Side things are one panel. So what is a comic? Does it take 2 panels to be a comic? I don't personally think it does. I think the one panel comics I think they're still sequential. I think they're still sequential art. And to me, that's all it takes to be a comic. And I just like that because it makes me think. Plus it's fucking Far Side. It's great.
Yeah. My number 1 is the Peanuts.
Nice.
It ran from October 2nd of 1950 to February 13th of 2000, and it only ended because of the death of Charles Schultz. It actually ran past his death because he had some comics already drawn, or some strips already drawn up. So it was always my favorite cartoon during the holiday seasons. The Peanut specials were always my favorite. Snoopy has been a long-time favorite of me as a kid and into my adulthood. I am collecting the Peanuts collected editions for each decade. I just love the Peanuts.
No, just absolutely. One of our clients at the old job I used to work when I worked with the interior decorator, he collects autographs. He has a Charles Schultz with a remark.
Nice.
Which is worth probably hundreds of $1,000s. He keeps it in a vault with a loaded gun because it's Arkansas. So,
and he should.
Yeah, I don't blame him. Not one single bit.
Mine would be hanging on my wall with a note that says, "I dare you to touch it."
What's a newspaper?
Right? No. That hurts my heart, but right.
No, my experience with the newspaper was with my grandfather.
Mine too, yeah.
I always, read them in the morning whenever he was reading the paper. And we always liked reading the comic strips. So my first one is Garfield.
Nice.
It's been going for 41 years since June 19th, 1978. And it's, about this lazy cat who likes to eat, and I can relate to that.
So my first one was Far Side as well. When I was a kid, I bought all the Far Side collections, all of them. Mm-hmm. I had the Far Side calendar. I had some Far Side t-shirts. Mm-hmm. I loved the Far Side because, first of all, it was hysterical, and it was the cleverness is amazing. Yeah. To do what he did in one panel was amazingly clever. Yep. And I can go back and still reread them, and I still laugh out loud. They're amazing.
Yeah.
100%. So I took some liberties with my next one. It's a newspaper strip that didn't actually show up in a newspaper. It showed up online newspapers because now, like you said, what's a newspaper? Newspapers still exist. They just don't print on newsprint the way they used to, a lot of them. And this one is the Little Donnie newspaper strips by Mike Norton. And these started 2017.
Yeah,
it's a newspaper without the paper. He has taken the tweets from our illustrious leader, president, the chosen one, and he turns them into very satirical, equally hilarious, equally depressing comic strips based on this character of Lil L.I.L. Donnie, who's this little tiny man baby with a bad comb over, and that just uses the tweets to really drive home the fact that we're being led by a fucking idiot. So
Yeah.
Tell us how you really feel.
yeah, and Mike Norton's great. Absolutely, I love Mike Norton. That dude's a hero.
Mine is my second one is I don't know if any of you guys have heard of this, but it was Hagar the Horrible.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh,
That
yes.
was on my
Yes,
list.
sir.
Yeah.
It started in February 4th, 1973, created by Dick Brown, and it still is running today. And it's his son has taken over. Chris Brown writes it now, but it was just
Not that Chris Brown.
Yeah, he doesn't. Well, he might. I don't know the guy personally, but yeah, it was one of my favorites to read as a kid. It was one of them that I always went to first. And there's no like message to it other than Viking being Vikings.
Well, it also kind of gave that feel that the Flintstones comic gave.
Yeah.
Where it's like they kind of occasionally do little parodies of modern day society and stuff.
Yeah. It was just a lot of fun as a kid. It was, you always had your favorites when you'd open the funny pages as a kid, which I don't know. Matt, did you ever get out the funny pages and read them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
First,
Did you guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So, I didn't know timeline when that maybe
yeah.
changed or whatever, but every Saturday, every Sunday, because the weekday ones weren't as great, but the weekend ones, I'd get it out. And you have your favorites that you read, and then you go back and read all the others because they were there.
Yeah.
But Hagar was always one of the first ones I read.
Oh, my story very much mirrors Jerry's. My first connection to comics was sitting in my grandpa's lap reading the paper with him, reading the funnies, because he loved the funnies, and that's kind of what instilled the love. When I think about it now, it's still my love of the medium. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Sunday was a big day because they were in color.
mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hagar the Horrible was second on my list.
Was
too.
it?
Was it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
There's one that sticks every time. There's one that sticks out that I read. Back when I don't know how young I was, but I always remember it. Is when they're having dinner and the wife turns to the daughter and says, "Can DAD have some CAKE?" And she says, "No, he needs to lose WEIGHT." And the last panel was Hager going, "I hate when they spell,"
Which is perfect.
Loved that. Yeah, that was so great.
That's awesome.
All right, so the final one, and I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of overlap here. Just maybe not.
I
could be.
feel
Now-
like you're probably
So-
I could be wrong.
Now, Hager wasn't on my list. I was actually going to say my next one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
Jeez,
Yeah, because I know what you're going to say, so I'm going to say it first.
Okay, do it. Do it.
Calvin and Hobbes.
Yes, sir.
Bill Watterson's Calvin and Hobbes.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we can all agree on the last one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, was that was
that was
my-
that was mine.
Yeah. mine
Okay,
too.
we'll skip ahead because you would have had one more, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, tell us your one more, and then we'll talk about Calvin and Hobbes.
Mother Goose and Grimm.
Okay.
By Mike Peters. Does anybody remember that one?
I do.
Yeah.
I loved that strip as a kid. I had a Grimm T-shirt as a kid. Yeah. That one was great.
All right.
I'm surprised no one picked Bloom County.
Bloom County was on my short list.
Yeah.
And Doonesbury was as well.
Zitz was on mine.
yeah, Zitz was a good one.
Dilbert.
Dilbert
So
was on mine.
Calvin and Hobbes to me is the pinnacle. Like there is no better comic strip. There never has been. I love comic strip history too. Like I'm a big fan of Lee Falk, Mandrake the Magician, the Phantom. I love all that stuff. But like what Calvin and Hobbes did for the mixing child wonder and adult psychology into a really understandable element just blows me out of the water. And I still love that today. Like there's a Calvin and Hobbes collection here at Kapow Comics. It's our regular comic shop that we record at. That's probably going home with me before too long.
My son Zane actually has that
Yeah.
at home, and I keep waiting for me to have enough time to actually pick it up and reread it. I read it as it came out, of course, but to just be able to sit down and read the entire thing from front to back.
I bought all
So
those
beautiful.
collections too. I
Yeah.
got those.
So, did you ever read the one? And I don't think it was written by Bill Watterson, but it was Calvin on his deathbed.
Yes, now there was an homage. It wasn't
Yeah.
Bill Watterson, but fucked up.
Did I
my
say
entire...
Bill Watterson? Or
No,
did
no.
I say
You said
something
it
else?
wasn't Bill Watterson.
Okay,
yeah, no, you're
no,
right.
I didn't know if I messed it
Yeah.
up or something, but yeah, that one it messed up my life. Did you read this one?
No, I didn't. If Bill Watterson didn't write it, I wasn't going to read
Well,
it.
So-
this one's it's an homage.
Yeah, it's an homage, and so Calvin's on his deathbed,
Oh.
and he asks his wife or his child if they found him, and they bring Hobbs to his deathbed.
We'll
And
fuck
he-
you up forever, man.
Yeah, he one last time in his life reimagines Hobbs.
Like I'm getting like
yeah,
What kind of dick wrote that?
yeah, yeah.
the kind of dick that writes the stories that I love.
Well, there was another one that was an homage where Calvin's grown up and his like kids getting in trouble and stuff, and he gives his kid the Hobbs stuffed animal, and then they go off to play.
So I think we need to mention, I don't think we need to just pretend like this doesn't happen. The Calvin peeing on things sticker
Yes.
has nothing to do with Bill
It's
Watterson.
not. Nope.
He had not licensed that. He does not get money from it.
Yeah.
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 Nor does his estate.
I saw a documentary about him.
Mm-hmm.
And
I watched it.
Yeah, you've seen it. He's like a recluse
Yeah.
kind of, like he won't.
I thought he was dead. Is he not dead?
No, he's not
Oh,
dead.
shit.
He still lives in the same
You
little
said the
town, but
estate.
no one ever
Yeah.
sees him. He won't come out because he doesn't want to be kind of bombarded or
Steve
whatever.
Ditko.
Yeah, he's. I wouldn't say a recluse, but he's fine living, letting that be a different life than his own life.
All right, Lily Guy wants to know, has been on the show twice, Lily Guy.
Yeah.
Wants to know what our favorite LGBTQ character is. All of them. We need more LGBTQ plus characters because representation matters. But I did narrow it down to one. I'm going to say Midnighter. I love me some Lucas. He's the character that stereotypes are stereotypes, and I had a hard time with him because I don't fit into a lot of the gay stereotypes as a gay man. But when I started reading him, I'm like, oh, that dude's like out in the front. He's leading the charge. He's very brash. He's very buff. He's very like in some sense he has a particular brand of masculinity, but he also is still very openly accepting of who he is, and like that's kind of a role model for me. So Midnighter's mine.
Yeah, so mine is Midnighter as well.
Fuck yeah.
And this comes to talking to you and talking about how you never really had somebody that you could relate to as far as gays are written a certain way a lot of times, and you don't fall into those stereotypes.
Right.
But then you've got somebody like Midnighter that is just this big badass. He could kick anybody's ass.
Yeah, it's kind of a lighthouse in the storm.
Yeah,
so to speak.
and then I had a note here too and he's okay being the bottom.
Right? No, he is.
So that. But yeah,
Being the bottom doesn't make him any less masculine.
right.
And I think that's a fantastic message.
Right. So mine came from my conversations and friendship with you as to how I determined. I mean, I've always been a fan of Midnighter, but that's how I determined who my favorite was.
Mine came from Saga.
Nice.
Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples do an excellent job of representation in that book. And it was Petricor.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember her, but she Hazel met her in the prison that her and her grandmother was being kept in, and you find out that Petricor is transgender.
Yeah.
It's awesome to just it's another one of those lessons that Hazel learns, and she just
Well, in that particular instance, she's pre-op transgender, and that doesn't make her any less trans.
Absolutely.
And I think that's an important message.
Yeah, and it just kind of goes to show you how well the writing is and stuff. And like Hazel, at first questions it, and then she's just like, okay, this is how it is.
There's no.
Yeah.
I mean, the world they live in is, especially Hazel's, is so crazy. Anyways,
I didn't pull them up, but they had the two reporters too.
Yeah.
The two gay reporters, and they were fantastic throughout the story.
Yeah, mine's Midnighter too.
Yeah.
His power set and his personality is killer.
yeah. I mean, dude could beat up Batman.
His personality is what I appreciate.
He has a fight computer in his brain.
Yeah.
He could also beat up Punisher
Yeah.
and Wolverine.
No, agreed wholeheartedly.
He probably
Wholeheartedly.
could. Yeah.
Easily. We wouldn't
Punisher
even break
for
a
sure.
sweat.
Wolverine.
Go ahead, pile on.
He can probably beat up Wolverine, but Wolverine could come back from
But
it. I
true,
don't
he wouldn't
think
be able to kill
Punisher
him.
could
No.
come back from.
Yeah, but his boyfriend, husband, is it husband or boyfriend?
Husband now. I think.
Oh, if we're
Yeah.
going to bring in others.
Yeah, Apollo could definitely
let's keep
beat
this
Wolverine.
conversation going. Oh, yeah. We're bringing in others now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Shout out to Batwoman. All right, so what?
Poison Ivy and Harley.
What dead comic company? I hate the phrasing of that, but it's so true. What dead comic company or imprint would you bring back and why? Also from Frankie DeJesus. I said EC Comics, man. I miss EC Comics. This
EC
company
would be amazing.
Yeah, they made the comics that your parents warned you about, dude. Those guys would fight tooth and nail over censorship. They spooky, scary, creepy. They really science fiction based, really abstract, but it's still incredibly timely. Like those dudes were not afraid to throw like what's happening in the world into their books. Like EC was dope.
EC is the reason there was a comics good.
Fuck yeah! Like yes.
Whether you, I don't think people realize what EC meant to the comic industry. Right. As you said, they were the reason that we were warned about comics, and it was kind of the early Dungeons and Dragons, so to speak, that if your kids read comic books and they read this science fiction and these horror stories, they were going to become serial killers type stuff. So yeah, I agree with that. I chose Vertigo.
Nice. Timely.
I know it's not even, there's still Vertigo imprints on the wall, but I'm not talking about what's been going on in Vertigo. Yeah. I'm talking about going back to the heyday of Vertigo.
Right.
When you had Hellblazer and you had Swamp Thing and you had
100 Bullets.
Sandman and 100 Bullets and Preacher and all these things that were so fucking good going through Vertigo. I would love to see that come back because to me, that's where Swamp Thing and Hellblazer belong.
Yeah. Vertigo was my answer as well.
Yeah.
That was mine too.
Yeah.
A standalone.
Honestly.
EC was a great answer.
And I want to clarify Karen Berger's Vertigo.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, honestly, I didn't really have an answer for it. I was Vertigo is basically it. Mm-hmm. But I mean, all that stuff's gonna get written anyway because they have their other imprints. Yeah. Black Label and everything. So
an Image came out and the absence of Vertigo, yes, there is an absence for it, but I think that there are a few, like, getting those types of comics is a little bit easier now than it was back in the day, I think. We're still, like Jerry's right, we're still going to get those levels of story. We're not getting EC right now.
No, we're not. Yeah. And I love that you can buy the EC collected editions. I just wish they weren't so much fucking money.
Oh, dude.
Because I would buy them all.
Yeah.
But they want a pretty penny for them. But I love that they're out there and it's a thing.
Yeah.
Those of you that love Tales from the Crypt, that came from EC. That's direct. That old HBO series.
Mm-hmm.
EC Comics in the 50s is directly responsible for that.
If you like Creep Show,
yeah,
that's EC Comics.
Yeah.
All right, and this one, Billy Z's got a good question. Name 3 TV shows you've seen every episode of. Also, what's your favorite breakfast cereal? I'm lactose intolerant, so I don't eat cereal, but I will munch on some Raisin Bran, which I know sounds really bland and not good, but I enjoy I'll take Raisin Bran straight out of the box. I also eat tortilla chips the way other people eat flavored chips. You just have to understand this and accept this about me.
I eat tortilla chips that way,
but
I still won't eat Raisin Bran.
Oh no, I will. I'll just munch on Raisin Bran, man.
Damn.
I have seen every episode.
Chew on a fucking cardboard box with some raisins every few bites.
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
Hateful, hateful catty bitches. Back the fuck off my cereal, bitch. Maybe it tastes different without milk. I don't know. I have seen every episode of Sons of Anarchy. We don't talk about season 3. I've seen every episode and own every episode of Will and Grace. Again, very, very important, formative show for little Caleb, figuring some shit out about his life. One of the main characters is very butch gay man that is married to a very gay lawyer. So I became their child. Also, I might be Karen Walker. And then last but certainly not least, and I think this is it's a landmark. It's honestly the high watermark of television. Something that is overlooked and very underappreciated. I've seen every episode of Witchblade, which was I'm sorry. Detective Sarah Pazzini kicks all kinds of ass. It lasted all of one season, guys. It got canceled real quick. It was very much early 2000s. The effects were not good, but I have a deep and special love for that show. I own the one season that came out. I still watch it from time to time. It's very much a throwback. It's not good, but I've seen every episode of all one season.
Awesome. Classic X-Files, and I say classic because I did not watch the reboot series, but the old stuff, I watched all of it. The Office, which that's just kind of our generation's thing, isn't it? And
speak for yourself.
Yeah.
MASH.
Yeah.
Growing up, we watched MASH all the time, every week when it came. I remember waiting for the series finale of MASH and reading spoilers about it in the National Enquirer.
Cereal.
Oh, cereal. Yes, sorry. I
Jesus.
forgot the cereal. Yeah, Peanut Butter Crunch.
Okay.
Captain Crunch, peanut butter.
Um,
I'm right. Quit looking like that. With that.
I'm thinking about, as a kid, I was always
Right.
confused that there was a comedy series set in war. I couldn't wrap my mind around
And it was
that.
great. Yeah.
It lasted
I mean,
longer.
I know.
than
it had some
than
pretty
war.
deep drama points to it, though, every
It did.
now and then, though.
It absolutely
Yeah.
did. But it was
Um,
done in a comedic style.
Before I start this, does anime count as
Yeah,
TV
yeah,
shows?
I'll say, yeah, absolutely.
Dang it.
Absolutely.
I put every episode of Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Phenomenal show.
Mm-hmm.
Battlestar Galactica, which I actually
also have seen every
seen
episode.
both of those.
just watched. I guess 2 or 3 years ago.
The old school or new school?
New one.
Okay, yeah.
Both.
Both, yeah.
And then Avatar: The Last Airbender,
Yeah.
which was a phenomenal series.
Roger and I just watched that last year.
Yeah.
Shout out to Rebels.
Yeah.
Because I forgot about that.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say Clone Wars and Rebels, but I didn't know if you were gonna
Yeah,
put that in
I
there.
left them off of there.
Cereal depends on if I'm in my. I want to
Adult or
feel.
child?
Yeah. So
I
child,
was going to say stoned.
child is Reese's Puffs. Adult is Honey Bunches of Oats, but it's still childlike because just bunches.
Yeah.
So mine, The Sopranos. The Sopranos was
have
the
not
first
seen that.
the first show I was ever addicted to. That show is fucking
Yep,
amazing.
I need to watch it.
I've watched it all the way through 3 times.
Nice.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Band of Brothers.
Oh, I love that show.
Band of
That's
Brothers
one I've seen
is
all of
fucking dynamite.
them. Yeah, it really is. If
and-
you like war stuff.
Yeah. And I love me some war stuff. And
Yeah.
I love me some World War II war stuff.
Yeah, it was so fucking good.
It is amazing, depiction of the war and and individual characterization and how it affects, people.
Yeah.
And thirdly, Batman the Animated Series. I loved that. When it came out, I was blown away by that series. And I still rewatch it. I want to own it, but they want too much for it.
Yeah.
So I won't buy it. But
Paul Dini, man. Paul fucking
man,
Dini.
and
It used to be on Netflix. Is it still on Netflix?
no, it used to be on Amazon Prime, but
I
now
bet it's
that
on the DC.
It is.
Yeah,
It's
I was
on the.
about to say,
It's on the.
it's on the
yeah.
DC, yeah.
They've added a lot of their animated stuff.
It's
Yeah.
I think all of it's on there now.
Yeah.
I think
Yep.
maybe
It holds up.
Yeah.
So it is just the best, man. The characterizations in the series were absolutely brilliant. And I haven't eaten cereal since I was a kid, but my favorite cereal as a kid was Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
I like the chocolate chip cookie one too.
Cookie Crisp.
Cookie with the little bandit still in the cookie.
There's
Chris.
something about. I'm going to sound narcissist, but there's something about me that just like I like flavorless cereal. I don't like comedy. I eat cream of wheat. There's something wrong with me.
I ate a lot of cream of wheat as a kid.
I did
because,
too.
Not because I liked it.
It was there. Like you had to.
Yeah.
I'm just
Oatmeal.
I eat corn chips.
I ate oatmeal. I ate,
For
I ate plain oatmeal today.
It's like the whitest fucking thing I've ever seen.
Without water, you just kind of.
I'll make my own water.
All right, and to end on a happy note, this is a really cool question, and it comes from our friend of the show, friend in real life, brother from another mother, somebody I care deeply about, our buddy Tyler May, and really Tyler is one of the most positive people I know. He looks at the world in a way that I like. He doesn't understand why things are bad, and I think that's fucking rad.
Yeah.
And he genuinely will question it. He's like, why are these things happening? Like, why is this bad? Like, why is this bad thing happening? Obviously there's no sense in this bad thing happening. Why? And he wants to know what is and to carry on in his positivity. He asks, what's been our favorite thing this summer? And I'm closing this one because it's now like we're rolling into September. So like it's ending.
Thank you.
Right. What's our favorite thing this summer? Better, anime, song, movie, food, game, of course, comic. Just what's been good. This summer was the first summer in 3 years since I started to finish my undergrad that I didn't have classes. So I would start by saying my favorite thing this summer was taking a little bit of time off before law school and just binging comics, man. Like I had a stack of comics that I needed to read beside my chair, and I read through that. But also, and just because it's so near, and because he said song, My favorite thing right now, Missy Elliott just dropped a new LP that is fucking fire.
I've heard that.
Like, dude, she has still got it. She's number one. I got a thing for Missy Elliott. Yes, I know I'm the gay dude on the show, but I got a thing for Missy. She's gorgeous, and I would be her man boy. But yeah, no, dude, it's great. It's fucking fire. Lizzo does a song with her on Lizzo's last album. It's good stuff. And even though I'm a metalhead, I got a deep love for Lizzie and for Missy.
Awesome.
All of them. Yeah.
Awesome. I've enjoyed Immortal Hulk all summer. It's been a great book, but I enjoy that in the fall and in the spring.
That's more of an annual.
That's why I didn't put it down, because I'm like, well, it's been out for a while. I can't say that.
Overall, I would say Marvel's had a pretty killer summer.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah, so I've enjoyed reading Marvel books this summer. I love watching live baseball, and I've watched quite a few games out at the Dickey Stevens Park watching the Arkansas Travelers. I've had a good time, and in fact, playoffs start this Wednesday.
You took me on a few of those trips. Though.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
For sure. I got a new grill at the start of the summer, and I've been adulting and grilling all summer.
None of us have been invited to any barbecues, Craig.
I haven't. It's been me and Stephanie. I'm sorry, we haven't done a grill yet.
I just
not
assumed
even Caleb, and not even me.
I just assumed it had been assembled.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do a grill out. And then the one that I know Matt's going to make fun of me about is last year, a band that I like that is not heavy metal, but they are rock, put out a new album, and that's Shinedown. And Monsters dropped this summer, and I really dig that song.
Going to Judas fucking Priest with you, man.
Yeah,
That's
that
on
was
my
good,
list
too.
of best things of the summer, dude. Fuck yeah, I forgot about that for a second.
I don't really know anything about Shinedown.
You guys want to get back into the Nickelback conversation from earlier?
No. What's been your favorite thing over the summer, Jer Bear?
I did 2 trips to Seattle.
Yeah.
With Steph, and we had an absolute blast.
Awesome.
We got to do all kinds of stuff and visit all kinds of really great places. The Arcane Comics comic book store that she goes to all the time. We got to go to Funko HQ, which was awesome. We went and saw a movie every time we went up there too.
Very cool.
Yeah. I think what was it? Godzilla, War of the Monsters, and holy shit, I'm forgetting that James Gunn movie that came out with the kid who was
Brightburn.
Brightburn. Yes.
So fucking good.
Yeah.
Have not seen that
So-
yet.
I haven't either.
It's good. It's really good.
So, yeah. Sorry, Terry, were you done?
No, yeah, you're good.
So my favorite things this summer, I made myself think of the comics I've enjoyed the most this summer that have launched, and it's the Hickman's X books.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Man, I am all in for these. These are weekly books. I wish they were twice a week books.
It's really hard for me not to call this podcast the Jonathan Hickman Appreciation
I know.
Power Hour.
I want to talk about them
It's
every
so
fucking week.
Good,
Yeah.
man.
They're amazing. I've been waiting for an X series this strong for 20 years.
That fucking panel in this week's when she's like, normally I would use my mind powers and make you put the gun where your last boifriend left you.
Yeah.
I fucking died.
Oh, dude, the scene with Sabretooth in court.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's so good. I love. See what we've done here.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went on to
love-
Heckman and X-Men now.
I love just the little things when Wolverine goes, Kurt, retcon. Like, oh my god, it's fucking awesome, fucking Hickman. So,
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
been fun. It's maybe the best comic book on the shelf.
oh,
right now.
it is incredible. So, but I've also really, really liked reviewing old books on the podcast, pulling up the old books that are really powerful for me and sharing those. I love doing that. Especially since so many of them are kind of obscure and nobody else has read. I discovered an old song this summer that is amazing called The Highwayman by the Highwaymen. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, how did you not?
Yeah, I yelled at my wife. I'm like, you didn't tell me about this song.
No,
No, I
shit.
love
How
that
did you
song.
not?
I don't know how I missed this in all these years.
Holy shit.
Right? Imagine discovering this as a 41-year-old man.
This is what happens when you only listen to one type of music and you only allow yourself that.
Well, I'm a big Waylon Jennings fan, and I didn't know about this song. Now, Johnny Cash, I'm like, they're in one place? What?
I post that song at least 4 times a year.
Oh, it's
See, this is
incredible.
why we gotta be Facebook friends.
Oh, man. So I just discovered that. And also, I've really, really appreciated the success of the Boys TV show.
Yeah.
Because that's one of my favorite stories ever. So I'm really glad that show was done so well.
I'll be honest. I'm on the fourth trade. I love the show a lot more than I'm enjoying
100%.
the book.
Wait till you finish this series.
Well,
the ending of that series is
I'm having a little bit of a
incredible.
hard time with the series. Only I can watch a television show where I really don't like anybody, but when I'm reading a book and I think everybody's just pretty much scum,
Yeah,
it makes
hard.
it a little bit harder to read.
You spend more time with it.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, not like the addition of your voice to this show this summer has been a great thing.
Oh, thank you.
So, like, I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the perspective that you bring to the show, and the fact that you do bring up some of those old books that a lot of us haven't read, at least in a long time. So, all right, that's it. That's all the listener questions, and like I said, we'll get more. We'll get another thing put up, and we'll get a theme going, and so we'll get themed questions to bring to the show. Now, we are wrapping this show up, and the way that we like to do that on the Southern Fried Geekery podcast is to tell you guys to swing out to your local comic shops or to order online to buy your comics every Wednesday, and because Wednesdays are New Comic Book Day every week, and we like to give you guys a little bit of an idea, a suggestion, if you will, how to set your menu for a New Comic Book Day. Because there's lots of stuff coming out. We can't read it all. Some things are hits, some things are misses, but we're speculating on what we might enjoy a little bit this week. So this Wednesday, I'm picking up a book that I'm super excited about. It's by a creator I spoke about earlier on the show, Mr. Mike Norton, with colors by Alan Pascagoula. And that's Battlepug #1. That's coming in comic form. Now, I bought the Battlepug Omnibus, which is how he originally put it out, because he did this as a webcomic. I bought it from Mike at C2E2 last year, and I actually, a dear friend of mine has pugs and loves pugs, so I had him sign it, and I delivered unto my friend Paul my giant Battlepug compendium. I'm excited to see this coming out in like a monthly format. And if you don't know what Battlepug is, think Conan through the eyes of a pug. It's like this child. This child with pugs is getting told bedtime stories by his mom or somebody. I mean, it's just fun times. And she tells these Conan-like stories where this figure rides a battle pug. And it's very fucking cool. And I dig it. It's really cute. It's really fun. I love Mike Norton. And yeah, pick it up. Check it out, Battlepug #1.
First thing I want to do is correct last week's. I don't know if you misheard me or if I misspoke, but it was actually Angel #4 that came out last week, not Angel #5.
I was wondering why I was having a hard time finding that cover.
So, and it was really good, by the way. This week, I'm going to recommend Midnight Vista #1. It's an Aftershock comic. Surprise, surprise, that I'm recommending an Aftershock. Elliot Rahal and Clara Meath are the creative team. A son and his stepdad are abducted by aliens, and then years later, the son returns, fully grown. And this is said to be a personal and true story by Elliot Rahal. So, we will see how it holds. But
Very cool.
Yeah.
The book that I am excited about is by Boom Studios, and it's James Tinian, Werther del Adera, and it is Something is Killing Children. When the children of Archer's Peak begin to go missing, everything seems hopeless. Most children never return, but the ones that do have terrible stories, impossible stories, of terrifying creatures that live in the shadows. Their only hope of finding and eliminating the threat is the arrival of a mysterious stranger, one who believes the children and claims to see what they can see. Her name is Erica Slaughter. She kills monsters. That is all she does, and she bears the cost because it must be done.
That's all she does.
That's all she does.
That's very much an Elsa Bloodstone story. That's in line, man. I can see you digging that.
Yeah.
Mine is actually Marvel Comics True Believers. It's the reprinting of Incredible Hulk #6. I really like going back and reading these early stories, whether it be Hulk or Spider-Man or what have you.
You've been buying the True Believers, and I've been buying the facsimile edition.
Yeah.
Copies,
Yeah. So, go out. Know your history, kids.
Yes.
I'm on board with that, dude. And those things are only $1.
They're $1.
They're $1.
Yeah,
You want a
they're
good
$1.
comic for $1.
Yeah, unless it's the freaking X-Men ones that were like $6 a piece a little while back.
I think those were the
Like-
facsimile editions.
They were.
Okay,
Those weren't-
okay.
Those weren't
That's
the
the
True Believers,
difference there.
but yeah.
Yeah.
True Believers are always
facsimile-
$1.
I was just mad that they didn't make them True Believers.
Yeah.
I like the facsimile edition because it's got every ad, everything.
Yeah.
It's reprinted. The only thing that's changed on it is the price.
Yeah, I've
Very
got
much so.
Everything else is exactly the same, though.
I've got another copy of Giant Size X-Men #1.
Yeah. Well, guys, we ready to wrap
I'll
this
give
thing
you
up?
$1.50 for every copy.
All right. You've heard me talk about it before. You've heard Craig. You've heard Jerry talk about it before. You've even heard Matt talk about it before. We've got a Facebook group. Come check it out. All you got to do is join. Answer. There's like 3 questions. It's asking you about comic
Yeah,
stuff.
man, I get so sick of Matt talking about the Facebook page. Like, it's just
Come
so
check it out.
obnoxious.
All the
Hang out.
fucking time
Yeah,
he's going
all
on
he
about
does is
Facebook.
God, Facebook.
We've
this,
got to
Facebook
get him a
that.
profile picture at some point. Come check it out. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. We really appreciate it. If you want to do us a serious solid, something we would greatly appreciate in a big way, we can't tell you how much it would mean to us. Give us a rating and review on however you get the podcast. If it's on iTunes, if it's on another aggregator that allows you to, throw us a few stars up there. Let us know what we're doing. It lets us judge ourselves on what the product that we are putting out is, but it also lets those aggregators like iTunes know that maybe we need to be bumped up on the list in the categories that we put in. So, like, if we're getting good reviews on things like comics, there's a comic section, and it'll say, "Hey, here's a thing you might enjoy," and it helps us out a little bit, get some new listeners, and grow. There's things you want us to talk about. Like, that's how you do it. The Facebook page. Come check that out. We hope you all have a great week. We hope you all have a great week and go forth and love some comics. Woo!